Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast. Hello everybody and welcome to a very, very special episode of the Welsh Yogi Podcast. Today we have the French phenomenon, Gange Das. Say hello, Gangi.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hello.
Krishna. Where are you from?
I'm from France, from a town called Angers. It's like a medium-sized, big town.
Nice. And you came over from New Zealand about a year ago, right?
Yes, yeah.
Wait, quick time. How did you get into Krishna consciousness? I never even asked you this myself.
Yeah.
Like, tell me what's your origin story?
But I've never heard about it before in my life, until I was traveling in New Zealand as a backpacker. And I did that for 1 year. And after that year, at some point I was traveling in Wellington and just walking around the city, and I met a devotee on the street and invited me to their center, the Bhakti Lounge that we have there. So I went there and I did some volunteering and then I got the Bhagavad Gita, the book. I really liked the center, but not enough. I was not attracted enough to kind of stay, I actually asked if I could do some woofing, but they didn't have enough space. So I had to leave.
Yeah.
And then I got the Gita and I read the Gita just on my own. And that was it. Basically, the Gita really got me in. It really touched me. That's what I was looking for. And the philosophy, that's what clicked with me.
What about the Bhagavad Gita? Was it the introduction or?
Yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah, my English wasn't super good. I was okay, but I couldn't really understand everything. But it's just as soon as I opened it, I just felt that very pure divine energy. I just had this really strong spiritual experience where I felt this is the truth, and this is what I've been looking for. And I was just reading it in that kind of energy, that mood. And even though I couldn't understand everything, every time I would understand, I would love it. And yeah, Prabhupada's introduction, that's what really touched me. But then even after, throughout the book, I just really liked it. I remember being touched in the introduction when Prabhupada said that even if I make only one person a devotee of Krishna, then all my work would be worthwhile. I was touched by that.
Wow.
Yeah. And just the way Prabhupada speaks with such sincerity, it just touched my heart, Yeah.
Amazing. So you had the experience. So before that, you were just kind of walking around New Zealand. Is it when you say backpacking?
I had my van. I had a van, and so I was working sometimes to make a bit of money because I didn't have much savings.
Yeah.
And then I would travel, around. I was my profile was I would say I was kind of like a hippie kind of, vibe, quite spiritual but new agey,
So you was always looking, kind of seeking for a spiritual understanding, or is that
not all my life, but most of my life I was just very as a young child I was curious, I would ask questions about God, but then one day my father was my authority and I asked him, does God exist? And he said no. And from then on I was like, okay, God doesn't exist. And my father is also very influenced by anarchy and revolutionary ideas, so he was just against religion. And seeing the right things that we see as well in some religions, that it's just about manipulating people for personal ambitions, So I could see that, and therefore I was against religion quite heavily. But then I had some awakening experience around 19 years old, 20 years old, where I just had experience through meditation. I just discovered meditation and I really liked it, and I started to do it every day and go in nature, read spiritual books. So I'd say around 20 years old, that's where I started to have an interest.
Interesting. And then you popped off to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Just kind of following the kind of free spirit of, following the universe. Would you say like that?
Yeah, I'd say God. I was quite...
you were searching for God.
I was like God, I would say God. I would say the universe as well, but I was not fully impersonal. I had I would pray and I would kind of see God as a person as well. It was kind of vague, not super clear.
Interesting. So then, you got your Bhagavad Gita. You had that experience, beyond words experience you'd say.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
and then the words also sometimes coming through too.
Yeah.
But like after that point, like how long from getting your Bhagavad Gita did it take for you to kind of shave off your hair and?
But basically 6 months. I was already like, you know, like I was living with my girlfriend at that time. She became a devotee as well, and we
She's
were
still a
both.
devotee?
She's still a devotee.
Really?
Very very serious practitioner.
Really?
She's really like she's managing the restaurant in. I have a restaurant at the uni in Wellington. Krishna Conscious restaurant. But yeah, we were both like quite, you know, for hippies, we were quite serious about spiritual life. And we had like our morning routine, we were quite, you know, serious, vegetarian, vegans, and you know, like. Well, sorry, what was the question? Yeah.
How long did it take?
So yeah, I got the book and over 6 months. I read it over 6 months.
Yeah.
And then at the end, yeah, so I said that, I described how I was, just to explain that I had this desire in me that I really wanted God, you know, that was like the most important thing in my life. I mean, at least mentally, that's what I was saying to myself. And then I had this aspiration that maybe one day I'll be a monk, you know, and I'll renounce everything. That was my idea, you know, and just surrender to God. But it was like a dream, you know, I didn't think. And then I read the Bhagavad Gita, and more I read, and the more the dream became like more tangible. And then, from at the end of the book, I just said, okay, I'm just gonna move with the Hare Krishnas now. I just said that, like really like blunt. Like my girlfriend was like, "What?" And I just moved to Auckland, and I went to the loft, the center there, and Devamrita Swami was there, so I had a darshan with him. And then he directed me to Bhadrasen, the leader of the CVA there, and I said, yeah, how can I move, you know, and I just moved in the ashram.
So over the 6 months where you had the book, you weren't hanging out with devotees at all? You just
not at all.
Really?
Yeah, just the book, just Prabhupada preaching.
Yeah. That's far out, isn't it? So you turned up and you're like, I want to move in. I'm sure they were pretty happy about that, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. They were very happy.
You're a bit
not
of
my
a
girlfriend,
self-starter.
Nice. It was funny because then my girlfriend, she was like destroyed, you know, and she used to be much more favorable. Like when we did the volunteering in Wellington together, she loved it, you know, even more than me. She was like really into it. But then when I joined, and she was like, kind of like the Hare Krishna movement stole my boyfriend, so she was quite, you know, averse. Yeah. But then after a while, we kept the relationship, you know. And she met me again, and she saw how that lifestyle changed me, and she, you know, she became more favorable. And then she moved. We went to the end of year retreat at the end of the year, and then she moved in the Wellington ashram, the women ashram. Wow! She became a devotee as well.
It's far out, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so when did you first hear? Because just pulling it back to the podcast, though, because at the moment we're reading through Nectar Instruction with Gopal. Yes. Unfortunately, Gopal isn't on here today because he's pretty sick. Like he's coughing and his voice is gone. So everyone's sending their prayers to him to get well soon. But we're reading Nectar Instruction. We're pretty much at the end of the first verse of the Nectar Instruction at the end of the purport. But I guess when was the first time you read Nectar Instruction? Do you remember that? Did it make an impression?
Yeah, it was quite at the beginning. I think when I moved in the ashram very quickly, Bhadrasen recommended me to read it. So yeah, at the beginning when I moved in, I think I read it quite quickly.
It's like a foundational book, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it gives you the overview on how to actually practice effectively, I guess. Yeah. So we are here. I guess you can read if you like.
Okay.
We're on page 13 if people are actually following it.
I just read the whole thing. The conclusion is that one who can control these 6 items, speech, mind, anger, tongue, belly and genitals, is to be called a Swami or Goswami. Swami means master, and Goswami means master of the go, or senses. When one accepts the renounced order of life, he automatically assumes the title of Swami. This does not mean that he is the master of his family, community or society. He must be master of his senses. Unless one is master of his senses, he should not be called Goswami, but Godas, servant of the senses. Following in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, all Swamis and Goswamis should fully engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As opposed to this, the Godasas engage in the service of the senses or in the service of the material world. They have no other engagement. Prahlad Maharaj has further described the Godas as Adantago, which refers to one whose senses are not controlled. An Adantago cannot become a servant of Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.30, Prahlad Maharaj has said, Matirna Krishne Paratasvatova Mito Bipadyeta Grihavram Adanta Gobhir Vishatam Tamisram Punah Punashcharvita Charvananam. For those who have decided to continue their existence in this material world for the gratification of their senses, there is no chance of becoming Krishna conscious, not by personal endeavor, by instruction from others, or by joint conferences. They are dragged by the unbridled senses into the darkest region of ignorance, and thus they madly engage in what is called chewing the chewed.
Jai. End of the verse.
Jai.
Godas. Goswami. Any reflections on that one? It just shows like we don't really value in our Western societies controlling the senses. You know, it's not like something I would say so much to someone on the street to attract him to buy a book. You know, yeah, with that book you can control your senses. You know, people are like, yeah, what's it for? I'm in control of my senses. People don't realize that they actually don't control their mind and senses, and that's the cause of their suffering. But they don't even know they're suffering. So there's two things we realize when we kind of humble ourselves and become, you know, a bit more spiritual. Yeah, I was reading yesterday in the Bhagavatam that kind of the material energy dictates to the living entity who is bewildered by the kind of bodily concept of life. Material energy dictates and just has to do whatever the material energy tells him to do. It doesn't have any freedom. That's what we read here, that the living entity is dragged by the unbridled senses to the darkest region of ignorance. It's like bridling is a term to do with like controlling a horse, isn't it? So like if your horse isn't controlled, it's just going to be free and it will drag you off to the darkest region of ignorance. Like if you just let your senses pull you, there's no depths to which they can't sort of plummet, you know what I mean? Like it it tends to be quite progressive. Like you know, at first you're like, oh, I want to have like something small, and then that gets into something bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you want more and more and more. You know, like material desires, you can never really scratch the itch. Do you get me? Like you're just chasing the next thing, and then the next thing. Like I remember when I was younger, my dad had like he used to get nice cars, you know, nice Mercedes or something, and it's like once he had his Mercedes, he was happy for like a month. And then he's on to the next one. Okay, what's the next car that's better than this, or what's just been released? So we used to go around all these garages and spend all of our weekends at different car garages, kind of exploring the different options for his next car, you know? And it's like, it got to a certain point with him where he just realised like, oh, this isn't making me happy. Like he got to that ultimate car that he'd always wanted his whole life. And then the itch was still not scratched, you know? So actually, that itch that we want to scratch is actually a deep spiritual itch to be loved and feel connected, you know. And we're searching for that feeling in a car, in sex, in food, in a big house, whatever it is. There's all of these different urges are those itches. What is it? The urges of the mind, the tongue, the belly, the genitals, anger. Anger is an urge, and so it's like these different urges are pulling us here and there. Never gonna be satisfied from pursuing them, and it's only when you realize actually, if I try to pursue Krishna, then the itch starts getting scratched. Then you're like, oh, this is actually feels real for the first time in a long time. Like what I'm experiencing in this kirtan. It's extremely satisfying, but I still want more and more and more. Like I feel satisfied, but I want more. And you probably experienced that when you moved in the ashram in New Zealand.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, the first week was like completely amazing. You know, we would just like, just do so many things with the boys there. You know, we had a little outing in the weekend, and I would go to the loft every day. The loft was open like 4 days a week, or 4 days a week. So, you know, I would volunteer there and do the program, and you know, cook some feast and start chanting and read, and I have Bhadra's association. It really helped me a lot. And that you just start to feel that real satisfaction. And as you say, it's like in the same way you're satisfied, but in the same time you always want more, because that's just the nature of the spiritual energy to be always increasing.
But it's not like a frustration.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, I need more sex, I need more, and you're just searching for it in pain, you know, like, I need it. It's more like, wow, that was amazing, I want more. Let's go deeper, let's get more spiritual, you know, like...
Yeah. And I was reflecting that, you know, we get those experiences, like my Gurudev Devamrita Swami says, like the loft, those kind of places, is to give people a knowledge spiritual experience. People who've never experienced anything spiritual in their life, they don't even believe it might be true, but then they have that experience which is knockout. It's so strong that they can't deny that they had that experience and that it is true. And then from there they can be attracted and become serious about spiritual life.
I guess that's what Tarakannath is trying to do with T. Krishna. Is build this facility where people can come, plug in, and have a very genuine spiritual experience, which they take away with them for the rest of their life, you know, and hopefully want more and more and more. And like just being a part of this whole ISKCON Wales movement, where we're just trying to facilitate that for others, you know, getting new people through the door. Like this Be a Monk experience was just really ecstatic. All these new boys and girls, and they come in and experience what it's like to practice spiritual life. And just by us trying to serve them and trying to give them that connection to Krishna, we feel so satisfied and so happy. And it's really like the substance of life is just to try and give this to others, and then you get more of it by doing that. And it's like this whole snowball effect where it's constantly expanding and getting better and better and better for everyone involved, and everyone who touches it feels that happiness. They feel that bliss that they've been seeking for many lifetimes. They've been wandering around New Zealand looking for it. I hitchhiked across America looking for it. There's so many people that are like looking for that itch to get scratched. They're looking for that love, that connection, that genuine experience. And we're lucky we can be a part of facilitating that. And that's what. So we're talking about controlling the senses. That's a part of it too, right? Because it's like that's the part of it which allows you to have that experience stronger, you know. Because
when you control your senses, then you can use them for spiritual purpose rather than being dragged towards like material pursuits. And so as soon as you use it for spiritual purpose, then you get that experience. But I was also reflecting, even though we get that experience, when we start to practice, you know, on a daily basis over the years, it's so easy to forget, to get covered again by Maya. And as soon as we forget, it's just harder to make the endeavor to be able to tap into that and get that inspiration. And that's where I find leaving some trace is very powerful. Like Riman Krishna Prabhu was telling me he loves Sankirtan because you get that experience when you can conquer your mind on book distribution, and then you have that samskar, that memory, and then later on when you have a tough time, when you've forgotten all about, you just try to reconnect, you try to remember that memory and try to reconnect to that feeling, that experience you had, and remember that actually if I really try my best, Krishna will carry what I like, what I lack, and I'll be able to tap into that again, you know. It's not like it's not gone, you know, it is there available, but I'm just not putting the effort.
Or just being covered by like these old habits. I guess that's the thing, isn't it? We're controlling these urges. The interesting word you used there, samskar, I'm not sure, maybe not everyone has come into contact with that word. But it's a very interesting, like it's literally a scar in your memory, in your consciousness, a samskar. So it's like a deep impression. So it's like you have a very deep spiritual impression, and that can help carry you through the times where you're not so strong and you're not experiencing the bliss all the time. So that's why it's really important for us to try and create as many of these samskaras as possible. Like have as many spiritual experiences as possible while the sun's shining. We got to make hay, because when the clouds cover it up, it's going to be difficult. And I think that's what controlling the urges, what we're talking about here, is you're stopping yourself from making too many material samskars, like materialistic things, because those material samskars cover the spiritual. Like wherever your attention is, where attention goes, energy flows, isn't it? So if you're constantly doing material things, then you're not going to even think about spiritual things, So we have to kind of control our apparatus so that we're not overindulging in the material things, so that we forget about the real thing that's really satisfying us. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like a step one, control the senses. As Rupa Goswami is saying. So, but easier said than done, I think.
Yeah, I was also thinking in regards to, we gave that tool of using our memory with samskars, and like you said, trying when the sun is shining to try as much as possible to have as much spiritual experience, so that will carry us through the tough times. I'm also thinking, yesterday I was meditating on vigilance, just being strict and rigid on certain things, having high standards around what informations you expose yourself to, what you allow yourself yourself to be exposed to be influenced by, the people you hang out with, the music you listen, the books you read, the place you go. Yeah, all those little things, they can choke the creeper of bhakti. Yeah. And Maya comes as a needle and comes out as a plow, so it seems so insignificant at the beginning. It's just a small thing, and you say, it's not a big deal. Especially if you're the sun is shining, you relax a bit, you're overconfident. It's not a big deal, just have this. Or I'll have this, I'll go to this restaurant, it's fine. And then little things, but then it piles up, and then you can't have Maya and Krishna at the same time. Is one or the other, sense gratification or spiritual development. You can't have both in the same time. So as soon as the needle is in, if you don't stop straight away, then you'll get into that, and it's really hard to come out of it.
And sometimes you have to learn by the school of hard knocks.
Yes.
Like you have to make those mistakes, slip and fall, to remember to get back up. Yes. If people who are listening haven't listened to the last episode with Gopal, it was really good. If you feel like you've slipped and you've fallen, like he was reading that poem about the racer that fell, and he got up each time he fell, and it's like it's normal to slip and fall in spiritual life, but it's important that we try and learn. Like your that philosophy you're saying there of being strict and vigilant is undoubtedly because a reaction to you falling so much that you're like, this ain't worth it anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I wasn't like that straight away. No, because I suffered. Because you suffered and you change. You kind of.
Yeah, and I don't think you can do it artificially either. You can't like just be strict. Yeah. Because if you're just strict and you don't even know why you're doing strict, it's like Niyamagraha. You're just you're doing something without knowing why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and I feel like it's a very Krishna consciousness, very personal process. So it's like Krishna gradually shows you how to become a better and better devotee and how to practice better and better. If you've got your ears open and you're listening for Krishna's voice at all times, then he'll show you, okay, you need to be a bit more strict. You know what I'm saying? and then you'll get the taste from being strict. You'll experience, okay, I feel stronger now. The sun's out more now. You know what I mean? So like, because definitely when I first read Nectar Instruction, Vamsi gave it to me, like I was like brand new, I had long curly hair, I was up the mountain doing all kinds of crazy stuff, like I was like a bit of a wild guy, and he gave me this. I read text 1. I said, a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. And I just like slammed the book, put it down, and I never read it again. Because for me, like, what do you mean control the urges of the genitals, the belly, the tongue? Like, what why am I trying to repress all of these great things? You know what I mean? Like, so
torture.
So like even
the natural.
Yeah, the idea of being strict is like, why would I have to be strict?
Yes.
Like I want to be loose. But it's like, okay, try it.
Because we associate that being loose with being free.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not the case at all, because as we mentioned, when we give in to the senses, we become slave of the mind and senses. But if we want real freedom, we need to be strict to the degree we can. We have the capacity to. As you say, we can't artificially be like that. But just as much as we can, we should be strict and rigid, because that apparent constraints, can you say that?
Yeah.
Constraints is actually what makes you free from the mind and senses. So following the rules and regulations make you free, whereas not following them make you a slave.
Yeah.
And you just need to understand that. And that takes intelligence and knowledge and mistakes and I like to use the analogy of like the plant, like the tomato. At the beginning, the plant, the creeper is like very weak, so you put that stick and you help it with that rigidity to grow. But then as soon as the plant becomes strong enough, you can take off the stick and the plant can grow by itself. So similarly, we practice Vedi Sadhana Bhakti, regulated devotional service. And then once we reach like higher stage of consciousness where we become spontaneous, then we don't need the rules and regulations anymore, but it's quite advanced.
Yeah, that's really nice, to be honest with you. I'm thinking as well, like, we talk about samskaras, like these impressions we have in our mind. Like, our mind is trained to think that, okay, if I have sex, I'll be happy. Or if I have a nice meal over there, I'll be happy. Or if whatever the material desires, our mind is convinced that this will bring happiness. So as soon as you threaten that, the mind might flare up. Oh, that's really boring. Like, no sex, that's boring. Or like, whatever it is. And it's like, actually, it's just like a faulty bit of data, like a faulty bit of program that's like looping in your mind. And it's like, okay, we need to give ourselves the real samskara, the real experience. Oh wait, actually the Krishna conscious thing is much higher than, so it's like, because our mind is a product of many lifetimes in the past. Like, it's the momentum and the programming of many desires, and it's so entangled, it's so like deep, and so it's like a lot of times what we're thinking isn't even a fact, you know what I mean? Like, it's so boring. Everyone, so it's like, it's interesting, like the idea of reconditioning yourself to think about things in it's a whole paradigm shift to actually take up, and that's what I mean. You can't do it immediately. It's not like a red pill. You don't take a pill and suddenly you think you see things, and you have to gradually train yourself. I love that stick analogy with tomato though.
It's good.
We steal that one.
It works well. It makes me think what you just said as well about, like, lately I've been having I felt I made some progress in regards to chanting and reading, and as a consequence I've been able to identify less with the mind, because we have those thoughts, those desires that come, and it's really hard sometimes to resist or do the right thing, react in a Krishna conscious way. But then if you are empowered by attentive chanting and attentive reading, your intelligence is strengthened, so you're able to see things like the mind for what it is, not you, just a product of so many material lifetimes of desires and thoughts and all that. And you have the strength, the determination to say no, and to choose a Krishna conscious option that's maybe hard because you feel so attracted to that material desire, and you don't feel really attracted, you don't have taste for the Krishna, but you still do it, and with that determination, and then Krishna helps, and then it gives you shelter, and then you get that really satisfying and nourishing spiritual experience, and then you look back at the material thing, it's like, I don't want it at all. But you gotta make that, you have that test, which is those tests that are hard.
It's crazy, the power of what you put in your ear can affect you like that. Like, if you're hearing nicely, if you're reading Bhagavad Gita, like I heard the spiritual knowledge when we were reading Ishopanishad on the podcast, in one of the purports it said that Krishna Katha is antiseptic and prophylactic, meaning that it cleans and it also prevents material energy from hurting you. So it's like, it is really like an inoculation. Like, if you actually read Bhagavad Gita every day, you just read it 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever, you read it, and it's you might not even understand what you're reading so much, but it's like it still has an effect. You know, like when you first picked up the Bhagavad Gita, you couldn't even speak English.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You didn't know what you were reading, but it had some powerful effect on you, on your consciousness. You know.
Yeah, like this Brahman as well. We heard the story, you know, that he was illiterate. He couldn't read, but he would just open the book and he read it in the wrong side. I think
if he'd
upside down, but he would cry and cry and cry.
Yeah.
He was so touched, you know. Krishna just reveals himself because of his sincerity.
It's like that desire to try. Like if you're trying to come close to Krishna, you're trying to read, you're trying to chant. Like Krishna is pleased by that. It's like a loving thing. It's like, wow, he really wants to know about me. So Krishna is going to shower then his protection and his blessings and his love on you. If you make, isn't it Shrunvatam Svakata Krishna? For one who's constantly devoted to understand the message of Krishna. What is it? As a super soul, he cleans your desire for material enjoyment from the heart. So it's like, if you have a desire to hear from Bhagavatam, or even if you want to listen to Welsh Yogi podcast for whatever reason, that desire alone is cleansing. Because Krishna within is pleased, and he cleans the heart. Then he takes away the material gunk and the junk, which is just causing us to see things in a wonky way, and really like it makes you want to actually connect to Krishna and be happy. You know, yeah, it's amazing. Thanks, Gangia.
Thank you, Martha.
I think that's a podcast. I think you nailed it.
Hare Krishna.
Everyone leave a comment and say thanks to Gangia. I don't know, send a message in. Maybe we'll get you on a gang in there. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I love Krishna Katha. I love speaking. Yeah. I enjoy doing that.
Yeah. You're a blabby fellow.
What does blabby mean?
Just like blabbing.
No, I actually like to. Yeah, I'm a blabby fellow, definitely.
Alright, nice one. Thanks everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.